Hello everyone and welcome back to the Screen 3 podcast. I am your host Cayden and today I'm joined by one of my great friends, Leo Carden. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, thank you Cayden. My name is Leo Carden, as you've been told. I am a filmmaker and a general human being. I am currently alive at the moment and we are talking about films.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I'm also joined by Mac, who is our producer on this episode. If you want to introduce yourself, Mac.
Hello, I run this company. That's pretty much all I can say. Go.
Yeah, that's Mac. You probably know him from other great shows such as Functions and the Press Red podcast.
Yep.
So today's episode, we're going to be talking about Joker 2 or Joker Folie Au Duex. It's a very controversial film at the moment, so I thought I'd bring in one of my friends, Leo, who you know, super into his films, and get his opinions on it. We've all watched it within the past couple of days, so It's all fresh in our minds.
Me, quite literally yesterday.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday too. You watched the day of release?
Yes, I did. I did watch it the day of release with not so much a full crowd, but definitely kind of somewhat of a sustainable crowd. And I also watched it with someone who hadn't seen the first one. Ooh. They only saw this new one. So
I watched it with pensioners.
I've been talking to people recently, and I'm shocked to hear that quite a lot of people I know haven't actually seen the first one. I thought when it came out, it was sort of like a big thing. I thought if everyone's seen it, I thought everyone liked it, but apparently not.
It does really seem like that. I wondered if it's because of the wave of popularity it had after it came out, and how it kind of very much became ingrained within internet culture. Did kind of like when there was an announcement of a sequel, everyone was like, I want to get onto the train of this and everything.
I have to ask, like, what was everyone's initial opinions on the first movie then?
First movie? Hang on, Leo, you go first, because I know what you're going to say, and I want to build off that.
I really liked the first movie to the extent of it. It wasn't the greatest thing of all time, I think. So I mean, especially within that year alone, it wasn't the best thing of that year or anything. I think what it did really well, and everyone did a really great job on that film.
I believe the year that released, that was the only film I watched that year.
Really? Because it was the same year, if I'm not mistaken, 2019, as The Lighthouse and Parasite.
Yes.
In my
Parasite.
opinion, some of the best modern day films ever made.
Parasite is one of my favorite films, so that one as well.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Lighthouse. I still haven't watched Lighthouse.
That for me, in terms of kind of like from Parasite with its narrative and its performances, it's all working on like this level where beyond the story, the themes it invokes, people can relate to. It's something kind of like uncaricature, whereas The Lighthouse is full caricature. It's kind of like, it's playing into the cliches, when you kind of say gothic lighthouse fisherman and everything, it plays into it so much to an extent that it's kind of like giving you more cake than you can ever want to eat. So yeah, compare that to Joker that released it that year. It was sort of kind of like, this is a good film. I will leave it at that.
I have to admit, with the Joker, I really loved how it looked the most, and I am a DC fan. Maybe not of the films, but specifically, I like the Joker as a character. And to see this been taken, to be taken in a way that is, this isn't the Joker, this is inspiration for the Joker, is an incredibly interesting way to take a story, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, with that, are you talking about Joker 1 or Joker 2? Because that actually brings up a point for about Joker 2 that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean, because with the first movie, we're shown that this is the idea that they were trying to present. With the second movie, that is the film. Like, him trying to say, this isn't the Joker. And that's very prevalent with the fact, I mean, spoiler, that they kill him?
Yes, that is, to be honest, it is the most surprising thing about the second one.
Really?
And for me, it's, if anything, it's not even the most like substantial thing about it. It feels like the way I feel about the second one, that we'll talk about later, is I do have a lot of problems with it. It does things very well. It does a lot of things very bad. But I do want to ask, because we're going off a little bit, what Cayden thinks about the first film.
The first one, what was it, 5 years ago it came out?
Yes.
I went to go see it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it might have been my favorite film that year. I hadn't seen Lighthouse or Parasite at the time, but I still really love the film. I haven't watched it since it came out. I would like to watch it again, but since it's come out, I've talked to a few people and I've still yet to see The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. So I think maybe seeing those films before or after watching Joker, I think would change how you view the film, because a lot of people say they're heavily inspired by those two films.
Yeah, so I had seen Taxi Driver before seeing Joker 1, and watching that, you really do feel that same sense of loneliness, kind of the descent into madness, where you can obviously tell that there's like, with Taxi Driver and Joker, it's like a pathology of loneliness. How this person is so isolated, when anything new comes into his life, he tries to reject it. And that's with kind of like Joker in the first one. It's very much, he gets caught in that echo chamber of, hurt and more hurt. That by the time he fights back, it's kind of like, it looks like this murderous rampage of like a insane person. And to what you said, interestingly, Mac, about the second one, where it was, he in the second one, it's like he fully becomes the Joker, and the first one is the hint of it. I'd almost say the exact opposite, that the whole film builds up to that point in the film with the first one where he says, when I come out, can you introduce me as Joker? It is like, this is the birth of this new character. The ending very much implies that this is the birth of this new person, because he kind of, the very final shot of the first Joker film, spoilers if you haven't seen it though, Arthur Fleck is alive and he's running around the hospital as That's Life by Frank Sinatra plays. You get this very pastiche title of The End, kind of like to imply that, this journey will continue. His rapid antics will continue. It's a very open ending, and I quite like that, because
Wait, is this the ending of the first or second one?
First one, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I was very confused for a second.
Apologies. It's the ending of the first one. It very much implies kind of like he has fully changed into this new character. He is, running around. It's the visual gag of him running across the hallway with the police officers running after him, and then back to the other way with the police officers following him again, which very funnily enough kind of implies for the tone that the second one goes into, where instead of kind of like making a very murky portrayal of this very funny, cartoonish character, it instead leans more into the cartoonish qualities that this character has.
When I said that, like the second movie was him changing into that Joker kind of character, what I really meant was he's creating the legacy of the Joker. Not he is the Joker, as I think that's very much confirmed now that he is not. It's more like he is the person who started the stain that happened on Gotham, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's the person who passed on that Joker name, probably to someone else, probably the guy in the background that was cutting his mouth,
Yeah, very big kind of reference to Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting way to go with this, the fact that it is a huge focus on the fact he isn't the Joker. It is the legacy of the Joker that is important.
Yeah, and what was it? Because that's another thing about it, was creating the legacy of the Joker, how people believe more in the idea of him than the actual person himself. I mean, you see that with Lady Gaga's character, and to me, it unfortunately felt like the whole point of her character was to get that across, that there is people prefer the idea of someone rather than the actual someone themselves.
I wanted to just bring it back to something I literally saw a few minutes before the podcast started. I just saw it on Instagram, and it's a quote from Todd Phillips himself,
the writer and director of Joker 1 and 2.
Yep, and he's come out and said, Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck was never Joker. He said he's always been Arthur Fleck. He's never been this thing that's been put upon him. This idea that Gotham people put upon him that he represents. He's an unwitting icon. This thing was placed on him, and he doesn't want to live as a fake anymore. He wants to be who he is, which is like definitely a big theme you see in the last sort of 15 minutes of the film.
And I think with that, you also fail as a storyteller. If you have to go to social media to highlight a point of your film that people are not understanding in the actual story itself.
I feel like that did come across in the film itself. Maybe not to everyone, but to a majority of people, I feel like we understood that this isn't a Joker.
And even still, if it wasn't a Joker, there are kind of like other parts where Joaquin Phoenix in promotion for Joker 2 says this is very much its own thing. This isn't going to be like a Joker you've seen before. We're very much telling our own story with this one. And like with the inspirations that we talked about with Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, I think The King of Comedy especially, considering its subject matter and the whole premise of it, it's kind of like they wanted to do their own story, but they've attached it to such a popular figure in media, where it's kind of guaranteed success in a way. The first Joker film was it the most financially successful R-rated film before Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, at the time. I don't know if it made $1 billion. It made a lot of money though.
Yeah.
And it was sort of out of nowhere. And I think without, like, I really enjoyed it. It was a good film, but without the label of Joker and DC attached to it, no one would have gone and seen it.
I mean, that's the interesting thing about it though, is that I think the qualities of that film, they are very, very good. Like if you dropped the Joker iconography and title, there is a pretty decent film in that. In a different world, I'd be interesting to observe the results. But I think as it stands, both films do have a lot of praise. And I don't know whether or not it is considering its title and its iconography of Joker.
Let's get it out of the way. Did we enjoy the film, the Joker 2, denying calling it the French name?
I did enjoy it.
I'm surprised. I am very surprised.
Cayden?
I loved it. I'm not going to lie. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't really there's some elements that I can understand as to why people don't like, such as like the musical aspects, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I've got a bone to pick with this film.
I did not like this film at all.
Really? Okay.
I left the cinema initially conflicted because it was like, this film looks and was amazing to watch.
Oh, definitely.
But the story made no sense to me and it felt pointless. As soon as it was over, I was like, I didn't need this film. Nothing changed apart from he's dead. That's it.
Very much so. I very much agree with that. The person I watched it with, she said that she had not seen the first one and that she saw that we walked out and I said, so what did you think of it? She said, I have no understanding of what is going on. And we talked a lot about it, and it was sort of like she was very confused about why there were these musical numbers, why this character acts the way he does, why these people are so infatuated about him. She specifically mentioned a part that's in the very opening of Joker 2, and it's when he's in the prison in Gotham Asylum, and you hear Frank Sinatra's "That's Life," the ending song from the first film. This became quite popular again because of the film. Brilliant song regardless. But what was interesting about it is in this prison, you hear that music again, but the music drops away. It's only the vocals and that very, very murky score within the first one rears its head back round again. And she said, I have no idea what the intention of that is. It just seems so confusing. And because the thing is, though, is that there's people praised the original score of the first film. And actually, I think it won the Oscar for Best Original Music. And it was kind of like Todd Phillips it was his direction of people being like, oh, this is the song from the first film and everything. I'm going to try and shatter that reality of Joker by having this murky score kind of come in and say everything is actually terrible. He's, this Joker he became, he's kind of lost. Which is another point of the film, is that he switches back into Joker. It is a big point of the film that they debate whether or not he has two split personalities, there is one personality, or if it's kind of like this entire different entity altogether. And that's kind of like the part of the courtroom, part of the interviews that he goes through, and also a major point of actually the musicals. One of the original songs for it, I forget what the name was, but it's the song that's played when he finally becomes Joker and fires his defense attorney. I mean, I'll say the good things first. It looks brilliant.
It looks amazing.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know who mentioned it between you two. If you liked the look of the first film, I found rewatching the first film before I saw the second one, something it was quite good colors and everything, though it was a bit plain. I mean, in the bathrooms, the famous bathroom sequence, it's all green. For other sequences, it's like it's all blue, or it's all kind of like slightly beige, kind of like slightly warm colors. That's very much kind of like what Todd Phillips does a lot of his films, like with War Dogs or the Hangover trilogy. Very warm tones. And so this was like him breaching out into something quite new. With this,
Which I loved.
Oh yeah,
Every scene looked amazing. I really liked those scenes where they really focused on the lighting. I know they had the spotlight that was recurring from the last film,
yes,
but they also focused on the color of the light. I mean, I think I read afterwards that some of the reflections in the prison were the colors of the Joker, which is just an amazing detail. I love it.
It's kind of like you could see after he meets what's her name,
Lee, but it's
Harley Quinn.
It was a really strange decision to call her Lee throughout the film because they full name her as Harley and Quinzel.
Yeah.
And then leave it at that. So yeah.
There's a bit like that little kind of like light reflection of the three colors that mean Joker, or when he's being interviewed by, I forget his name, but it's Steve Coogan's character. Those three colors appear again. Very, very smart. I also saw on another podcast when they talked about the lighting that Joker was identified with warm colors, so stuff like yellow.
I wrote that in my review. I'm quite happy I caught that.
Yeah, quite warm stuff, and then very cold with Arthur. And it's kind of like you have the battle between these two colors, and for example, the scene where Lee Lee is like talking to him through the telephone after she's lied to him. It's green. It's a combination between blue and yellow where he doesn't really know whether to embrace this character or to stay true to kind of like who he is as a person. And that, as like color coordination and storytelling, is magnificent.
See, like one of my favorite films is Grand Budapest Hotel. And I know I said that wrong. And I have a favorite scene in that, which is the girlfriend. I can't remember her name right now.
Saoirse Ronan.
How do you know this? In front of the Ferris wheel lights in the background. It's a beautiful shot. And I seem to just like shots where there's centered people in the middle. And I just love that Joker shot where he's in that solitary confinement room. There is no light except the light behind him. And he is lighting up his face with a lighter. That is a beautiful shot and kind of reminds me of, 1970? Oh, what's that war film?
1917 by Sam Mendes.
Thank you.
It's very funny though, because when I actually saw that shot, it immediately reminded me of a film I saw a few years prior. It was one that I was sort of thinking it like, oh yeah, that shot of Joaquin Phoenix with the cigarette and the lighter he's very, very good. I was like, I feel like I've seen that somewhere before within a prison film. And the very popular YouTuber Carsten Ronquist actually made that connection. It was a 2020 film called Great Freedom, where there is that exact same shot. Cigarette in the darkness, you see the face and everything. Very brilliant character study, that film is. I can't pronounce the guy's name. It's Franz Fragogowski or something like that. I want to give that another go at some point, but watching Joker 2, for me, it felt like I was watching someone imitate a bunch of other films.
Yeah.
Like if Joker 1, people were sort of saying you could see this a clearly inspired Taxi Driver, and it's clearly inspired by Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, then Joker 2 is almost like a collage of like different films, a lot of them being like musicals and dance sequences, but also courtroom dramas, and like I said, the prison films, it very much kind of mimics stuff like with Shawshank Redemption and everything. And by the end of it, I was kind of thinking, it was the same sort of thing I had with Joker 1. It was like, what new thing does this offer? I'm sure not every film should offer something new. As far as like what you're bringing to the table is people suffer from mental health. This is the DC universe as like a very realistic kind of like character portrayal, very quite, dark and everything. You're basically making like a teenager's fantasy come true with like their own depiction of the Joker. What else is there? Like, what bigger thing are you saying? I mean, something like Parasite that same year talked about kind of like financial living, the gap within like different classes. And yeah, it was just kind of like, that's so much more of a deeper film that released that year that you can get so much more out of. And then when I watch Joker, it's like I'm only getting the style. I'm not getting any substance apart from that.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I feel like that, especially with the second one, there's not a whole lot of substance when it comes to theme and story, and not a lot of originality. But what I took away from the second one, which I enjoyed, but other people I can see them not enjoying, thinking it's a bit of a cop out. I felt when I watched the film, especially with all like the musical numbers and how Arthur's sort of praised within the prison. He's even liked by all the guards. Everyone loves the Joker. I felt it was a film written by the Joker for the Joker. And it just sort of seems like it's someone's adaptation of his like diary entries.
Well, they do mention, I mean, it's interesting you say...
They read it, don't they?
Yeah, they do read it out in the film, and they critique him. Like, they critique the diary entries. It is interesting that you do say adaptation, because they mention TV movie.
Yeah.
And how it ranged from being really amazing to really terrible. And that does actually bring
the irony of that.
Yeah, it did really bring me into another bigger point of it, and it's that this whole film is kind of like critiquing the reaction of Joker 1.
I will say I really, really liked those scenes where they were in court. I thought those were really good scenes because that's where most of the meat of the film was coming out, where the character development was actually happening. It's my personal opinion that I saw no character development out of that room. And I really love that they went back to, I cannot remember his name, the slightly shorter fella, shall we say?
Gary Puddles.
Yeah, Gary
Puddles. I love the fact that they went back and they went through the fact that he didn't attack him at all. He was nice to him, and now he's changed because he believes he has to have changed to be this Joker character. And he's sort of taking the mick out of him. He's pushing him to his limits. And that was perhaps one of my favorite moments of the film.
I do think that it was very nice to sort of see this actor's range. And that was actually quite a good, really, really good scene, because a lot of the film kind of looks back on the first one and kind of like it either condemns it or it praises it, and it can't make up its mind. But what I like about that singular scene with him on the stand was it does make you see that scene a lot more differently, and how he was actually a nice to this one character. And because that character in the first one, he was more of a supporting sort of person in it. His feelings and that weren't really that well regarded within the first film. But in the second one, the way it kind of like brings up how, more insight into this person, you do start to realize the actual impact that he had with murdering these people. Because, I mean, that's another thing I think the second one kind of gets really messed up about, is kind of like there's no one talks about Franklin Murray that much. They only ever mention him being like, oh yeah, he shot Franklin Murray.
Yeah, like in real life, it would have been a worldwide incident, have everyone talking. But I feel like, especially in the second one, majority of the film, I feel like you see people sort of praising Joker, and they're on the Joker side, and you only really get sort of Harvey Dent, the witnesses, and the jury,
I know,
who are the ones sort of opposing Joker. And so I don't know, the film, I wouldn't say it defends him, but I feel like that's because it's through Arthur Fleck's eyes, and it's not until he and himself realizes, what he's done.
Yeah.
Is it a judgment of the audience?
That I really do think so. you could see the audience as the prison guards, as the people rallying for Joker outside. You could see it as Lady Gaga's character, as a personification of the audience. They loved that TV movie, they call it. She says, I've watched it 20 times, when actually she only watched it 5. They want this movement to happen, this big kind of like deconstruction of kind of the upper wealth and that lot. It actually reminds me of a little story I watched, a story that happened to me where a friend of mine, who actually does go to Norwich College for film, when he came out of Joker, he was sort of like rambling at me about it and everything. He kind of said, yeah, it really makes you feel angry against the first class and everything. And I kind of think, well, okay. That was sort of like kind of the whole fear that a lot of people, not a lot of people, but just like some very public people had about the first Joker film. It's like, oh, this is going to incite violence. This is going to incite another like cinema shooting. And it's kind of like this second film, it treats that as if it did become a real thing. Like as if like, oh, this is the real genuine reaction people have to this character. And is taking that whole kind of thing way too seriously. And the popularity of the first one and how much it was kind of, memed, how much it was sort of spread online. And it says like, oh yeah, this is an actual movement. Where to me, someone in the real world, I was just something, I kind of feel a bit disconnected from it. I feel like I'm getting a little bit lost here. Quiz intermission.
So yeah, what I'm going to do is you two are going to sit there and you're going to write down your answers, but we're going to look at them at the end and I'll tell you if you got them right or wrong. I'm going to ask, what is the runtime of the whole film? The closest wins. Don't say anything. You can ask questions. I don't know if I can answer them really, but you can write it down on your book.
Okay, write it down. I've got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Leo, you got it?
Yeah.
And now we can carry on. I say we should...
I'm going to change my answer. One second.
The aspect I want to talk about now, because it kind of was brought up in the last conversation, so I quickly noted it down. Harley Quinn's character. I kind of want to just focus on her for a little bit, because as we said, look, this is an interesting role for Lady Gaga herself, but also she is a role reversal of the initial character made for the cartoons, which is interesting that they went that way. Do you find that interesting?
I found Harley's character was the one sort of gripe I had with the film, because I don't care that she's not really Harley Quinn from the comics. It's interesting that she's been sort of swapped around, because it's usually Joker who's this big sort of figure and she's his lapdog. She'll do anything for him. Whereas it definitely felt the other way around, that she had the power over Arthur the whole time. She's the one who convinced him to put the makeup back on and sort of pushed him over the edge back into this Joker role. But the one thing I felt didn't resonate with me was I didn't really understand her character's motivations. It seemed like a very surface level character. She just sort of, what I gathered from the ending of her story was she is just a character who grew up wealthy. Her dad's a doctor. She's got this background in psychiatry, and she's just looking for something different. She just idolizes this serial killer, but as soon as that's taken away, she just doesn't really care. She can move on with her life. She's not this crazy person like it's made out to be.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about the whole thing of her being a rich person. She resonates with it almost because she wants to be in that position instead of him. And it's kind of like there's a whole little bit of it when she's listening to his phone call and she puts a gun to her head.
Yeah.
And then she's alive the next minute. And I'm kind of like, what was the point of that apart from her just pretending to do it?
I agree.
Like, she's doing it for the viewer. She's not doing it because there's a reason to, or she feels like she wants to do that. It's just for kind of like invisible eyes to see, where she just says, the story says I should put a gun to my head because I'm meant to replicate this image of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker putting a pistol to his head. It's so uncalled for. And like you said, she just says, I don't care anymore. I don't care about you, and walks away. So unutilized, in my opinion.
I feel like she was meant to be, yet again, a director's commentary on the whole thing. Like, this is him taking the mick out of what we expected to happen. This whole film, I should say, kind of feels like it might become a cult classic later on because it has so many elements that are good and yet it falls down on so many other elements. It'd be interesting to see where people's opinions on this film will be in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I really am interested in it, considering that it's a film that dates itself, saying that this happened all because of the first film, and it's really kind of propping up the first film in a way where it almost seemed like it wants the first film to be a cult classic, and it's sort of like you got to watch one and then two and then make up your own opinion in that sort of way is what it's saying. For a film like that to kind of gain more notoriety as it goes on in time, it needs to be its own little contained thing. I think Joker 1 was its own contained thing. This one seems very codependent on its predecessor with how much there is like commentary about how people reacted to it, how it sees itself and everything. I mean, the film, I think it does critique the first one in a way. I think the whole point of the film, in my actual opinion, is a bit of a hot take, but the bit where he's in the courtroom and he remembers after the iconic dance sequence, he washes his face. That, for me, I was watching that and I said, that's the reason this whole film is made, is because, he becomes this different person, quote unquote, and then he immediately washes it away to reveal that they are the same person. And to make an entirely new film, like a sequel, that's like got all this millions of dollars in and everything, has this massive marketing campaign for what feels like just a reason to include that little bit at the end because you couldn't in the first one. I thought, man, a bit of a waste.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. It did just feel they used sort of these 2 hours or so to show that he isn't Joker and he doesn't really want to be Joker anymore. I don't know. I don't know. I like the message. It's a very basic one, and they probably didn't need to use all that time to do it. But I don't know. I think it worked.
I could sort of see it working if it was just within the prison. Mac, I know you said you very much love the courtroom stuff. I think I'm in the exact opposite opinion. The courtroom stuff for me just felt so cartoonish because it didn't get what makes these courtroom films really good to watch. It's the intrigue, it's the back and the forth, it's the the winning and the losing of it.
There probably could have been more of that element in it, but
yeah, I mean
that did feel to me like that was where the meat of it was. It was nothing else in the rest of the film.
In terms of commentary, I somewhat agree. How it critiques the audience and the previous film. But that's because there's like someone on the stage being like, yeah, Joker sucks. He was like, his journal is like really cringy. He's got Le Crush on Zazie Beetz, who was the lady that he imagined the relationship with and everything. And even Zazie Beetz' character sort of says like, yeah, he was just this person who was a big wimp and a loser and everything. And I'm just thinking that's a mouthpiece for the script.
That was a difficult scene to watch.
I kind of
very cringy.
I kind of found that a very difficult scene in terms. I would have liked it if they actually stuck with him instead of breaking into like this musical act. The musical act is warranted because it's the whole part where he becomes Joker. He kind of switches back into the role a bit and commits to the character. But on the other hand, I do agree if they stuck the camera there and didn't cut away, and he just sort of sits there and squirms, I feel like that may have been a lot better impact on it.
There was a recurring thing that I found with that film is that it relied a lot on music. And I know it's a musical, and we'll get onto that in a bit. I feel like if they left it in absolute silence, we had to watch what was going through his mind. We had to sit there and watch him have a breakdown. Would have been better than him either breaking out into song or sitting there and imagining this music, I'm guessing from this.
That's the interesting part about this being a musical. It is a musical, Todd Phillips. It is a musical, by the way.
It very much is a musical. I mean, it's the first musical I've ever seen with superheroes or this kind of genre.
I mean, what's it? Like, because I actually had no interest in this film until I found out it was a musical.
Oh, I had very much the opposite.
Well, because like imagine the creativity you could do by making an R-rated musical. How many can you actually think of that deal with dark subject matters, that have like mature, that are for mature audiences and everything, that have like original music for it. I could only think of two, and one of them's like an adaptation. One of them was Rent, where I think like I can't remember much about it, but everyone in it has like HIV. And the other one was Dancer in the Dark by Lars von Trier with Björk in it. And even that film uses music in such a weird way, whereas like the diegetic sounds of factories and raindrops create the tone.
I've never been a fan of musicals, and this film tested me on that.
Really?
Because I actually left the cinema going, I actually liked maybe 2 or 3 of the songs in the whole thing. I'm a fan of jazz, soul music, that genre. And it was nice to have music that I would listen to. I would have preferred it if they had more of him actually being able to sing.
Yes.
There were a few moments where they were kind of doing this quiet, toned voice. It was driving me mad.
It was the broken kind of like voice trying to reach the high notes. Like Arthur Fleck can't sing. Joaquin Phoenix can sing. He was Johnny Cash. He could have sung. And that's another reason why I was excited for it. If it's a musical, you've cast 2 very good people for it. I don't know if you know this, but Lady Gaga has a bit of like a little small music career kind of going on.
Oh, just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and Joaquin Phoenix in Johnny Cash, Walk the Line by James Mangold, where he did play Johnny Cash. He was great. He impersonated his voice so well. And watching Joker 2, as soon as the music started, I thought, oh, of course, it's Joaquin Phoenix. He's not going to sing like Joaquin Phoenix. He's going to sing like the character he's playing, which I really much did like for the first song. I think the first song in that film is the most deserved musical number in that. It's He Needs Me, which is, I can't remember exactly who sang it. The only one I can remember is the Shelley Duvall cover, which this one seems to be actually using. And he's singing, he's not on a soundstage, he's not in costume. The lights change to become more warm as he's looking at the TV and starts moving around with the prisoners. There's like another prisoner who's kind of imitating kind of like an instrument. I really like it. It's such like an easy move into the musical. It's a good way to kind of like let the audience know that like, yeah, this is going to be more of a thing. What I didn't like though was the parts where it's just kind of like hard cut. We're in this surreal world where there's just people around the place. Everybody loves these 2 characters as they're just going absolutely ape wild on the piano or whatever. He's hitting people over the head. There's spotlights and shit. There's the part where she's like doing the dance, the iconic Joker bathroom dance with like this blue moon behind her. And in the first film, that was like, it was close-ups. It was like low angles. In this one, it's like a wide kind of like eye level. She looks so silly.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that, and because it holds on that sort of her silhouette in front of the moon, and I literally thought in my head while watching it, I was like, I hate pretentious interpretive dance, and that is what this is.
And you got Lady Gaga doing it.
Yeah,
it's like, oh man, I'm sorry, but
yeah, the cutaways is something that I really liked, just because it's it's a bit of a change up, and he's in his Joker makeup and whatever. But yeah, I feel like it did sort of take away from the film, because it's obviously they're all in his head, but I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't really fit with the film. It seems like you've got an outside voice who goes, look, I want to make these scenes with classic Joker and like a more of a classic Harley. Just put them in the film somewhere. Yeah, like just put it in there. We'll make it work. And I don't think it worked that well.
That's the thing, though. It's kind of for me, musical numbers within the film are supposed to convey a lot more information in a short amount of time than dialogue can.
Oh, fuck off.
I think so. I 100% think
no.
Yeah. You want to okay. Listen. Bit of a out there kind of like reference for it. The Little Mermaid opening song is Ariel wanting to go into like the
Sorry.
We've spotted like an Arthur Fleck cameo.
There's a
lookalike
crackhead
right there.
outside the studio right now. I apologize.
Oh yeah, no.
I
Sorry,
don't know if you can say that, but okay.
Max loading his like pistol at the moment.
Yeah,
he'll be gone
we'll,
in a second.
we'll deal with him. Leo, continue.
No, I'm not killing him.
No. You're not killing him.
No, he's just going to get what he effing deserves.
Yeah, get what you. But I think like as I was saying,
Oh my God.
you know, like in the opening of The Little Mermaid, it wants to convey that Ariel is tired of this life and she wants to see what the big world is like for her and see all the wonder. You get an introduction to her character, an introduction to the world, you get an introduction to her motive, everything to start the story off of in about like around 2 minutes 30. Like runtime wise, you are gold right there. Whereas something within Joker, it's kind of like, what am I getting at that I couldn't get at from just having that be shown within performance or, you know, the visual storytelling angle?
I highly disagree with more information being shown through music. I don't have that feeling. I do when it's a proper song, but when it's a musical song, I would rather they would just get to the fucking point and say the lines. It's always something that's irritated me about musicals.
But that's the difficult thing about it, is that if they say the lines, you're not really invoking the emotion or the impact that you want it to have. What was it? La La Land is, you know, one of the very few cases of it being a modern day musical all with original music. And the music in that, they all convey different kind of like character points in the time. Like when, oh my God, it's like someone in the crowd could be the one tonight or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if I remember, it's been so long since I've seen that. They're singing that while on the highway, ready to go to LA. It's meant to, again, introduce Emma Stone's character, how much she, you know, what her motive is. It's a very much an I Want song. There's I Want songs and there's Who I Am songs within kind of Broadway musicals. And you can do both at the same time if you're like, you're very clever with it. Because just once you know those two things, you can have your characters go off on their adventure. You don't need to spend, 15 minutes for setup. You're ready to go. You've got an introduction through the music, let them loose. And that's what I'm kind of on about with these musical numbers. And the reason why in Joker 2, it just doesn't work is because like I'm getting into his head, but I already know that.
Yeah.
It's like, if I already know that, why do I need to be here, seeing him kind of like in these different costumes?
I found less so to do with the actual musical songs, but the score. I just want to compare La La Land and Joker 2 really quick. In La La Land, you have Mia and Sebastian's theme that is played throughout the film. They play it multiple times, and it always means something slightly different every time. And you sort of see that through the, what's happening visually. But every time you hear it, there's something going on between our two main characters.
Yeah.
I feel like in this film, they tried to use Joker's sort of theme from the first one, that sort of harsh, steely like tone. You hear the first few chords, it's Joker's theme. And they use it quite a lot throughout the film when he's talking with just him and Harley. And it doesn't really have the same effect. I just feel like it's just thrown in there. So like, oh guys, remember this from Joker 1? It also
feels like quite repetitive, right?
Yeah, it just never really hit the same for me. It didn't make much sense for it to include it.
Definitely so. Also, just going to do like a really quick Coke click. So there we go. Apologies.
Nice.
Wow, I sure am thirsty, but luckily Dr. Pepper is here for me.
Not sponsored.
What did you guys think about Joaquin Phoenix's performance? Because for the first one, he won. I think it wasn't the Palme d'Or for acting. He did win the Oscar for acting, and he did win many other plethora of awards for his performance in Joker 1. I have to say, very, very good performance. Joaquin Phoenix, for me, he never misses, even in his early work. And now I don't know if he's ever done a sequel before, but if he hasn't, this is his first one. I was just wondering what you think about that.
What I really enjoyed from the second one, I noted it down just after I watched the film, his physical performance as Arthur Fleck and then as Joker. And literally you see it within the first, I assume it's the first shot of the film, where you open up his cell and he's hunched over, he's just like a bag of bones, and he's like this frail nobody because he is just stripped down to his core, he is Arthur Fleck.
That's how I look.
He is Arthur Fleck at that point in the film. And then obviously as the film progresses, he leans back into that sort of, when he is Joker, he's leaning back, he's casual, and even when he was Joker in the courtroom, the one thing I did really enjoy was he did feel like when he got close up to old Gary Puddles, he did feel like he had a lot of power over him because he just felt really imposing. He stood over him, the low angles that were used. I think they did a similar thing in Dune 2 when you see the progression of Paul's character.
Yeah,
when
very much so.
He believes he's the least unlucky, but he sort of becomes this predator almost. And I think they did a similar thing in this, and you can definitely see it. You don't even have to have the makeup on to see when he's flipped back and forth.
Oh, yes, certainly. Definitely within that first film as well. They actually bring a lot of attention to his body of him keeled over. But when he does sort of kind of like finally break out, it's kind of like he's finally loosened up and he's able to like dance around and everything.
Yeah. I have to just butt in quickly. One of the questions that was going to be asked, but is no longer going to be asked, is why is this film unusual? Because this is his first sequel, as you mentioned. I just wanted to put that out there and fully confirm this is his first sequel.
I had a faint suspicion, and I was just sort of like, Joaquin Phoenix, in terms of quality, I'd have to say he is my favorite actor. Every time he just delivers. Like, even with very indie films like Come On, made in 2019, he delivers.
I have only seen him in Joker.
Really?
I have been trying to watch more films with him in, but because I use streaming services and we don't have HBO here, it's very difficult.
I might send you some YouTube links to some of his really nice performances.
Go ahead.
But yes, I have to say it's my favorite performance of his. I think it's my favorite performance of the last decade. It has to be Paul Thomas Anderson's 2012 The Master. Sorry, Cayden is holding up an image to me of the mockumentary I'm Still Here, directed by Casey Affleck.
Have you seen that? I really want to watch it.
It is. It's not that good.
No,
it is.
I heard the real life story about it, and I
it's
assume that's more interesting
because no one else was in on it apart from Casey Affleck, I think it was his stepbrother, and Joaquin Phoenix. Him just kind of dropping off the edge, kind of being like, there's a very funny bit where I can't remember what rapper he goes up to, and he's like, yeah, I want to be in the big rap game. And they're like, so what kind of music do you want to do? He says, I want to make something that's kind of like got the flow that I want to present, and it's like, Bohemian Rhapsody taking you on a journey with like every single song. How does that sound? And I can't remember what the rapper's name was, but it was just like, yeah, okay. We'll see what we do. It's just watching it, like, oh my god, the stacked cast in that mockumentary because no one else really knows that it's a documentary. So you kind of get people like Danny DeVito, Bruce Willis, Ben Stiller turning up in it and stuff.
Yeah,
it's very crazy. Anyway, I have to say the thing I was going to say, the best performance I've seen Joaquin Phoenix ever do. And one of the best performances of the last decade is Paul Thomas Anderson's 2012 feature, The Master. Very much inspired by L. Ron Hubbard and how he created Scientology. It follows a man discharged from the Navy who, with no goals in life, who manages to find this person called The Master, who's responsible for creating this group of people who believe in something called the Cause. Lots of similarities there, and the master character is played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, also one of his best performances. So you have these two, titans of acting with so much experience and skill under their belts, both sharing a room with each other. And there's this one sequence in it that I think just floors me every time I watch it. No matter how many times, there's always something new to pick up on. Joaquin Phoenix holds so much behind his eyes within every scene of that film. And again, body performance, he's very kind of like crooked and janky, but when he kind of frees up a lot more, it's very visible. His character, the whole point of the film is about, can you be controlled or can you live without control? And it's always a back and forth. And yeah, very, very, very brilliant film. Everything about it. The visuals are almost like Terrence Malick-esque with how ethereal they are.
Right, yeah, I've just added it to my watch list. It sounds like a really interesting film.
Very brilliant film.
I do need to catch up on my Joaquin Phoenix because I just looked and I've only seen him in Joker and Joker 2.
Really?
Yeah. I skipped Napoleon. I wanted
Napoleon. Oh, like, why did you bring that up? That's the one time I'm like, this guy.
we don't talk about Napoleon.
We don't. Yeah, no, we don't talk about Napoleon.
Yeah, I'd like to see more. I've never seen Gladiator.
He's sick of Gladiator.
Yeah.
You hate him in that. He's revolting.
Yeah, I know. My girlfriend, she watched him in Gladiator and said to me after the film that she didn't watch him for years, and anything she saw him in when he was younger, she just was like disgusted by him.
You want to punch him in the Gladiator. You want to like absolutely just throttle him. And I think it's like such a great job to be able to do that when considering that a lot of people will be like, yeah, Joker's very cool and everything.
Yeah.
And to go be able to cause that range within that.
Yeah, it's good.
It's awesome. He's a I don't know if it's right to say, but he's a bit of a dark horse, Joaquin Phoenix. He's I don't know, some people kind of see him as very mysterious. Some of his actions can be quite questionable, such as the recent news that he had dropped out of a Todd Haynes film, I think like 10 days before its actual filming was meant to be begin.
Oh, yeah. I think a friend of ours, Ryan, was telling me something about that. And he was saying to me he's not yet seen Joker 2, but he thinks that Joaquin Phoenix could be sort of on his way out of Hollywood because he thinks obviously Napoleon wasn't his best performance and he's not seen Joker, but you know, from what everyone's saying,
I'd respect that if he left Hollywood. I think there is still a career that you can go to even outside of Hollywood. I mean, for example, the George Lucas Star Wars films were made outside of Hollywood. You know, I really respect that. If it's something that kind of Joaquin Phoenix does want to do, I full-heartedly accept it because I feel as if an actor leaves the comfort of Hollywood to do something more risque, which usually is the case. You see with like Robert Pattinson,
yeah, that's what I was
with
thinking.
like reworking his entire career, or like with Demi Moore with The Substance. It very much kind of opens you up to be able to explore, find new things, and also give the audience something they've never seen before by you. So I'm very much up for that. You know,
Yeah,
give us crazy, Joaquin.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's definitely the type of guy who could give something new as well because he's not just like your bang average actor.
Yeah.
Has he ever directed anything before?
I don't know. I want to say he has, but I haven't exactly looked. I'm interested in looking at it.
Yeah, it's an avenue he could definitely go down. I'd be interested in watching it just because his name's attached.
Oh yeah, he's one of those people that's like earned that, not so much that trust, but he's earned the dedication of someone like me, because it was like I got to see it because it's Joaquin.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with Tilda Swinton. I think if Joaquin Phoenix didn't exist, then Tilda Swinton would be at number one.
We are going to change one now because we are getting close to an hour. We are at an hour's worth of recording already.
Ooh.
It's another quiz time. Get your books. Get ready.
Okay.
This is going to be a difficult one, and you are definitely allowed to ask me questions because the question may seem very obscure, but I am looking for a specific line when it comes to this. There's a line in the film that is a mistake. What is it?
That is a mistake.
It jumped out to me when I was watching it in the cinema. So,
Is a mistake. Is that where it's a mistake in terms of continuity?
oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
A very big mistake.
So it's in the script, but it doesn't make sense in terms of the film.
I can tell you where the setting is.
Okay.
It is set in the courtroom, and it is. Can I give that away? Yeah, why not? It is when Joker is being sentenced. What is the line that is wrong?
Press Red is a company which hosts many podcasts, one of which being Functions. The hosts are Mac and Eli. They talk about everything media tech, mostly Apple, which they probably shouldn't. Their latest episode was about the Rodecaster Video, one of the Rode's latest products. You can check them out in the link in the description of this podcast or any podcast provider, including Amazon and YouTube.
Right, we can go back to chatting about the film. This time, let's chat about the end. Although I do want to just shove in the very beginning, just before we get to the end.
With the shave?
No, the animated moment.
Oh,
I thought it was interesting.
I love that moment. I thought that was great.
Really?
I thought that was very good. And when I finished the film, I left the cinema going, I wish I just watched that 1 minute, maybe even shorter clip, maybe 1 or 2 minutes actually,
Because
that made more sense to me than the whole film did.
Yeah, very much. It sort of like, it was part. I would have really loved it if they actually. Because when I was watching that animation opening, I thought, are we going to get like some 2D kind of birds flying around the prison or whatever? Or are we going to get like some 2D blood covered over like this,
I was disappointed by the curtain. The curtain was not a great way to transition between.
Yeah, I was disappointed by that in IMAX as well.
You watched it in IMAX? Oh, you show off.
I know, right? I know,
Of course you
right?
watched it in
They
IMAX.
watched it IMAX for free, just like that. Don't
For
wanna
free?
flex or anything.
Yeah.
I paid for my tickets.
Oh, we got connections, man. What are you on about?
We know
Oh,
people on the inside.
No, but yeah, I like that opening.
discount.
I like that opening. It was basically a whole metaphor for the end of Joker 1 and what it's trying to say about Joker 1 for Joker 2. So the shadow kind of comes in, gets the makeup and the suit on, takes over or swaps with Arthur, does all of these heinous things. Then by the time Arthur shows up, it's oh no, it wasn't me, it was my shadow, it was this different person, it was Joker, that type of thing. It felt very, in terms of what it was saying, very plain. In terms of the kind of like the look and the feel of it, I really liked it. It was like a good tone setter for where this film was going to go, if only it really did stick to that tone.
Yeah, I really like the visual style of it, and I thought it's an interesting way to start a film. I don't know, it's quite different. I'm sure it's been done before many times.
I'd say it's almost like been done before with TV shows, like with cold opens.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
seems
yeah.
like a good like cold open for like a sequel.
What I really love, what some films do, that I really liked David Fincher's newest one, The Killer. I think it does
Yeah.
really well. The first 10 minutes of that could easily be a short film.
Yes.
And what I liked about Joker 2 was obviously you get the animated section, but then you also get a day in the life of Arthur Fleck at Arkham Asylum. And like from him waking up to, going through his day, going through the prison, and then ending up back in his cell. I really like that, just sort of showing, like, establishes where he is, like what's going on, some of the guards, some of the characters he's with. I thought that worked really well.
Yeah, I like that too. Like it's great setup. It's kind of like it really kind of hits home how bad the situation is compared to the first film. That whole kind of like ending of That's Life with the comedic stuff and running around.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is time has passed in this. We don't really know how long. But yeah, I mean, and of course the cut on his lip.
Yeah.
Because when that does happen, we get the title cards. In the first film, there was that title card when he was on the floor, completely beaten. It's the mirror of that. It's like he's in this position where he's like very at the bottom of the well, basically.
You've picked up on a nitpick of mine when it comes to films. I don't know if you know. I do graphics. I'm a graphic designer.
Yeah.
I am not a fan, and I probably should be, but I'm not a fan of the big text in films.
Oh, you not?
I like it when it's centered and it's smaller, but you can still see a lot of that frame.
Yeah.
I would say with the last film, I was okay with it being that big. But when they added that extra French words, I'm not saying, there was so little left of Joker being actually in the frame. I thought there is no point in having him in the background at this
Yes.
point. You can just see his eye, I think.
I think that's exactly the point of it. Like if you look at it, especially in the first one and the second one, the word Joker, it goes off the side of the screen. Like it takes up the whole screen.
Yeah.
And you've got this like beaten, this, nobody cares about dirt on your, the bottom of your shoe, Arthur Fleck. And he's just going in, like engulfed by the Joker. Like he's insignificant to Joker.
Yes.
I think that's exactly the point of it.
I think that's the point with the first one. What's the point with the second one?
The second one,
I can't think of it. Why the eye and not the little cheek? The bloody cheek.
I think they just want to do something cool.
It's a good visual image that his cheek gets cut and it bleeds in like a frown compared to a smile.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's like the inverse has happened between the time of this, but then there comes the ending. Now, I like to say the ending happens when he gets arrested and he's back in prison.
Yeah.
That's like this is the final scene of it. And this was kind of like the multiple nails in the coffin of this film. Harley Quinn goes nowhere. Brendan Gleeson's character, who plays the prison guard, goes nowhere. This weird killer guy who is the end of almost like not every shot, but like is shown and focused on for like no reason whatsoever, only for this scene to occur.
That you reminded me of something that
It's
really
like, yeah,
bothered me.
It did bother me. This character being like, why is he in the background smiling?
There's
It's,
a moment.
he's gonna do. This is
Yeah.
This is like Chekhov's serial killer. It's like you're gonna show this guy. He's got some pretty big like arms on him and everything. He's like, oh, this person's gonna try and like maybe fuck with someone. And
There was that moment where
Yeah.
like the Joker left the frame. Sorry, I shouldn't call him Arthur. He left the frame, and they just stayed on him for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And he was in focus. It peeved me off so much when that happened.
On the nose thing.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, okay.
Keep a secret for me. Don't just straight up highlight that. Look, this guy, he's going to be important, and he's going to keep following him around, and he's going to be conflicted in some scenes, and he's going to love him in the other scenes. And you go, just don't do that. It
Yeah.
would have been better if it
was like-
was no one and he just arrived and then he did it.
For like in terms of like a storytelling perspective, it was almost like a cop out for it, where it's like we're gonna do the bare minimum to get this across, so when it happens at the ending, it will kind of connect. I don't know. It's I kind of question whether or not even showing it at the start would even be worth it, but I never know. But with the ending, what we do have is this scene of him being stabbed a bunch.
Did you expect that to happen?
Yes.
Me too.
So
the
expected.
moment the film started, I was like,
It's
he's dying in this film.
Yeah, it's the how about a joke, and you're like, okay, I'd rather hit you. He's gonna get his throat slit or something.
Yeah.
I actually expected at a certain point, the final scene with Lady Gaga and Arthur. I expected Lady Gaga to shoot him because you see her with the gun. You see that it's loaded. You see that she's planning to do all this big stuff. I'm gonna build a mountain. Whatever the hell that was about.
What the fuck was that about?
I don't know.
I'm sorry I'm swearing so much. Like, this is not supposed to be a swearing podcast.
Oh, is this not? Oh,
no,
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It just means he's got to edit it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. What was the way that I described this film? For a film that's about an identity crisis, it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Yeah.
And you can really see that in the ending of this film. When you get the whole part of the crazy guy, he gets introduced, he says his lines, he stabs him a bunch, you then go into this musical number, and then you go into like another little sequence, and then you have the one of him dying on the floor, and then there's the little blood trickle around his mouth. For the life of me, I can't really know what the point of it was. I thought, oh, that's a little neat bow that wraps it up. But the more I think about this little bow, I think, is it because he's smiling at the end? Like, is he Joker all along? Or was he, I don't know. It's that thing. It was kind of like visual storytelling. Yes, you include something at the very start and you have it happen at the very end. And I sort of think, that no, I don't get it.
I feel like with that film, it struggled with that concept so much that having what was at the beginning happened at the end, because yet again, that film did not feel like it did anything for me, and it really did just feel like its own little loop, which is weird for this film that's already separate from the Warner Brothers world.
Yes.
It's just having this separation twice is just weird to me.
Yes, very much so. And the just the disjointedness of it all. Yeah, it just made me kind of so like, where is this going? Can they actually tie everything together about it? And it doesn't. It never does. It just goes from one thing to the next. Talk about some characters that are underutilized. Steve Coogan, underutilized as hell. I feel that same sort of way with I don't know the actor's name, but Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, oh,
Oh, cool. Harvey Dent's in this.
wow.
You know what I thought was really quite funny? When I was watching the film, and obviously the courtroom gets blown up, and
Yeah.
you know, it's like, whoa, everything's happening. It pans around. Harvey Dent's got like half of his face is like, you know,
burnt
hurt.
off.
And obviously it's like super.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
It was like
No.
It was.
I remember
Some
like
stuff.
with that scene, I looked at that very carefully because I thought this is a perfect point to make him look like.
yeah,
He
not
doesn't
only
look
was-
like he's burnt at all. He looks like he's sniffed a packet of crisps and it's stuck to the side of his face.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like little bits of fire on him.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't. It just sort of seemed like he had some grazes on his face.
Yeah.
But then obviously the whole scene is like really quiet. You get sort of the tinnitus effect, and I could hear the two guys behind me go, "Oh yeah, look, he's Two-Face, Harvey Dent, Two-Face. Look, look, look."
Two-Face.
Monkey see, monkey do. Look,
Yeah.
Two-Face.
The moment that I knew Harvey Dent was going to be in this film, I was so excited and so let down when I actually watched it because they could have done so much more with that character and they did
Story of
practically
Two-Face's
nothing.
life right there.
Yeah.
I want a Batman and Two-Face standalone film. I want that so bad.
So I also want to mention, like, we all watched the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Do Joker and Harley Quinn leave together down the steps?
No, I remembered that scene. I don't remember seeing it in the film.
Yeah,
do
me
this-
neither.
They do this with the Joker 1 trailer. There's a shot in the Joker 1 trailer where you see him in his suit and tie and like the red, outfit that Joker has, but it's in Arthur Fleck. But no clown makeup. It's Arthur Fleck looking up and smiling. It's almost like it's his mother's funeral or something. You kind of like, I was waiting for that clip because it looked like a nice scene. Didn't appear. Okay. And then when I watched Joker 2 trailer, there's the bit of them both at the steps. There's the bit of when Joker's in the white suit and he's about to kind of go in for a kiss with Lady Gaga. And the image looks incredible. They look like these two massive statues with this orange glow. And then the white suit appears in the film and then there's not that shot.
Okay, right. So I'm going to ask you one more thing and then we're going to do a quiz. This last thing is, ready?
Yeah.
What would you rate the film out of 5? Go.
Out of 5, do you want me to write it down or just say?
Just say it.
I
And then we'll go into the actual questions afterwards.
will give it a 4 out of 5.
Want to give it 4 out of 5?
Yeah. Can I read my letterbox review as well?
3 out of 5. I give it a 6.
I've read your letterbox review. It's very entertaining.
I said, what do you get when you cross a director who doesn't want to make a sequel with a greedy studio? You don't get what you effing deserve. You get a super visually appealing film with a solid cast, plot, and song choices. Wake up, sheeple.
Ooh, using the sheeple line. Damn.
Wake up, sheeple.
I reviewed it at, I think, a 2.5.
2.5. That's a 5 right there.
Bang average.
I would agree with you. It's closer to a 5 than a 7, but it's certainly a 6.
Okay. I'm genuinely shocked by that. I thought you would have come into it giving it like 3 out of 10.
It's the visuals for me, man. They look absolutely incredible. Better than a lot of other Hollywood films being produced today.
I can fully agree with that. I watched Rebel Moon recently. God, that was awful.
Yeah.
Every second of it. And in my review on Letterboxd, I call it, I say, this film left me conflicted, but it's not a bad film. It's way better than Zack Snyder's wet dream called Rebel Moon.
Yeah. So yeah, it's certainly a film that will release, and in my own opinion, it will be forgotten about from how much it dates itself, how much it attaches itself to other media, how much it riffs off of other media such as musicals, prison films, and courtroom dramas, without fully committing to it or understanding what makes courtroom dramas or prison films even work, rather focusing on the actual character of Joker rather than trying to make a name of its own.
Are you ready for your final question?
I am, yes.
It's a very easy one if you were paying attention. What does Arthur Fleck sign the security guard's book with? And we can go straight into this one because this is the end of the episode. Right. Okay. So, question 1 was, the runtime is 2 hours and 18 minutes. Who got closest to that?
I put 139 minutes.
I put 2 hours, 20 minutes. Yeah.
139 minutes is 2 hours and 19, right?
I think so.
Then you win.
Oh, you crazy,
One
bro.
minute. Yeah, when in doubt, that's solid 2 hour 20. Hollywood love that.
Because I put, what did I put? 129,
Oh yeah.
and I changed it. 139.
The second question is, there is a line in this film that was a mistake. What is it? What did you write?
Is it he killed 6 people?
Nope.
I didn't actually put the line. I just thought it was something to do with what he was charged with, and if they got it incorrect, I didn't know the line though.
The line was, the people of New York.
Oh,
Really?
That's crazy. That's in the film.
That's in the film. And it's jumped out at me so much.
Oh yeah, actually, it's like the people of New York versus Arthur Fleck. The jury decides.
Yeah.
Really?
And they just straight up say that. For me, that seems like something you could easily do a voiceover to replace and put.
Yeah.
Well, because that actually brings me up
Gotham
about
City.
another thing is that because this is a sequel, it has to develop it's basically saying we have to develop the world more. And considering Joker 1, it was a pastiche of New York with the darkness everywhere. Everything was quite wet. The bustling, kind of like the taxi driver street life, basically.
Yeah.
And so now that it's a sequel and they have to build these locations that look kind of corny, I can understand how during production it would just be labeled as it's New York. Don't think about Gotham.
I think it was filmed in New York as well.
Of course,
some of it.
yeah.
The final question, which you just wrote down: what does Arthur Fleck sign the security guard's book with?
Do you want to say it at the same time, Cayden?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. I hope you get cancer.
You're both correct.
I actually put on a happy and then crossed it out. I hope you get cancer.
That's big. I mean, I did put the little smiley face.
Does that
I think might have been at
count?
the end of it. Or not.
Yeah, there was a smiley face.
There was
at the
a
end, but I
smiley
didn't
face.
put
Like,
that.
we'll call that a draw.
I'll call that draw.
Yeah.
I think you get an extra point for that, but you don't need it because you've already won.
GG's.
You know what? I feel like I've won by being here.
Yeah, it was all about taking part.
Exactly.
It's definitely a fun recording.
Oh, definitely
That was
so.
good.
We
Right.
never went through the booklet.
Oh yeah, the little
We talked
booklet.
so much about Joker that we couldn't get through this booklet of over 1,000 films in.
I tell you what, I'll invite you back on the podcast and we can talk about the booklet.
Oh no! Oh, thank you, man.
We'll have a booklet special episode.
Booklet special, yeah. And the
Literally.
booklet we're referring to is Leo's booklet. Do you want to explain your booklet briefly?
Okay, so when I was at the end of high school, I'm 21 at the moment now, but when I was at the end of high school, I started logging every single film I'd watched. If it's on the list, I have to watch it. I cross out a line if I've seen it, and I rate it out of 10 of what I think of it, and 10 out of 10s are circled. And over the years, this list has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and at the moment, we have just crossed over 1,000 films on it. And almost, I think about 1/3 is finished. So these guys get to have a little peek into my little film opinions, film collections, and any they see are bad, any they see are good. They can fight me on it.
And that is why Leo doesn't have a letterboxed, because he's got his little book.
My own personal letterbox.
Exactly. All right. Mac?
Take years to back up all of that.
Yeah,
onto
exactly.
Letterboxd.
Because you can only rate, I think you can only do 99 films at a time. So it'd take you ages.
They have a limit. I've never reached it.
Yeah, cool. Right. Thank you guys for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. If you want to get out our socials, Leo, do you want to plug yourself? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Leo C Films on Instagram. I'm going to be creating a YouTube channel very soon. I will also have a Leo Carden website. I am a filmmaker and student at the time, and making big projects coming along the way.
Yeah, you got a film in production right now?
I do. I currently have a psychological character drama called The Merger. We are actually filming right now.
Is there anywhere that we can link that up for when it comes out?
Certainly. I'm going to be showing it in film festivals and then uploading it onto YouTube.
Okay, cool. I don't need to plug anything. I own this company, so I'm fine.
The flex.
Yeah.
Just check out my YouTube channel, Caydat. I'm gonna switch up my content. I used to make sort of more film content, and I don't know. You'll see. You'll see what I'll start putting out, because I don't really know what I'm gonna start doing yet. So yeah, cool. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time.